And a good morning to you. It's Sunday and I'm on my way to the gym. And since I'm on my way to the gym, that means I will film another one of my so amazing videos where I talk about basically whatever I thought up the day before, and then I push it onto the interwebs so that it can stand as an homage to all the stupid stuff I thought up in my 30s. And hopefully in my 50s or 60s, I'll look back on this and either cringe and go, wow, I was not that smart. And hopefully in the same thought process, I'll say, but damn, I was good looking. Don't know if that's gonna happen. Anywho, on to what the topic of today is going to be. So I thought since I started at my services and started programming in Scala, I thought I'd make a small comparison between Elixir and Scala. Now this is a extremely opinionated comparison, and for those of you who've ever watched any of the talks I've had about Elixir, you can probably just skip this entire video because let's just say that I am a bit of a fanboy when it comes to Elixir. However, I do believe that there are some things that I really think is really great about working in the Scala environment. Now, first and foremost, it's actually not Scala that I would say is the nice thing about it all. It's basically SPT who has made like a basic IntelliJ, which is the IDE of choice, or rather for me, the IDE of choice when it comes to working in Scala, has let me down to the point where I am so frustrated on a daily basis with that fucking IntelliJ IDE, with the IDE, so I basically depend completely on the compilation that SPT provides for me, because IntelliJ is really not that great at least not for me, at handling Scala. It's really great at a lot of other stuff, but maybe I'm doing something wrong, but it's really misbehaving, having issues with symbol imports and other stuff like that, and so far I'm not that impressed. Although it might get better if I ever figure out where these issues are coming from. On the other hand, the Elixir environment doesn't really, if you're working in Elixir, you don't really have a specific IDE or anything like that, which is a good thing and a bad thing. Like, I use Visual Studio Code for Elixir, and since it's not strictly typed or anything like that, that actually works pretty well for me. Like, you don't really get a lot of the nice stuff with imports and assistance that you get from an IDE. And if IntelliJ was working properly with Scala, and it's getting better, it's not like it's the end of the world, but it's getting there. If it was at the point where IntelliJ is with Java, for example, I would say that the development experience in Scala is probably much better than Elixir, in terms of being productive and getting assistance from your tooling, if you will. And SPT has watch modes and all recompilation watch mode, and it's overall it's unfair to say that the development experience isn't that great in Scala, because it kind of is. If everything is working as it should be, it's actually better than in Elixir, in my opinion. And that kind of is honestly the only thing that I, right now anyway, think is better with Scala, or rather working in Scala, than working in Elixir. My absolute favorite thing about Scala, and probably one of the favorite things I have with Elixir, is the idea of a match clause or pattern matching. I think there's a lot of power in basically using pattern matching in order to declare certain conditions for when something happens. Now, we use a concept called event sourcing for an architecture, basically, at my job, and I think it's such a cool idea. I was actually introduced to rather we had a workshop on the topic yesterday, and I was really like, I was more keen to understand why the decision had been made to use event sourcing. And for those of you who don't know what event sourcing is basically that you, for any state change you make to your model in the database, so like say you have a user and you want to update that user's followers, instead of having like an endpoint where you actually go, you directly query the database, get the user, add a follower, and then push the user down to the database again, you basically use a flux system or a redux, whatever you want to call it. If you're a React developer, you basically use redux or flux with reducers, and the concept is that you have an object that represents the update that you want to change, or an action. So in this case there would be an action called update add follower, and you will send that message down to a reducer or a function that is responsible for doing two things. It's responsible for, first and foremost, that you send the user that you found with this request to make an update that contains the new follower, and then it updates the view. Basically it saves to the database the updated user with the new follower, but it also takes a timestamp, makes a timestamp on that action, so that, and it saves the action to the database as well. So that means that any update that you made, or in this case adding a follower, will actually be remembered in the database. And the benefit of this is that you can trace all the state change that happens over time. In theory, you could, if let's say that you lost your entire database, you could recreate your entire database, or rather for the user in this case, by simply going back and looking at all the events that took place and replaying those over time. Because you would have, in theory, or if over time you would have, all right, create user, add user follower, and then update user, and so forth and so forth. All these events it's a really powerful way of working. It's extremely powerful for a lot of stuff, and when it comes to pattern matching, it's even better, because when you do pattern matching in the way that Scala has with match clauses, it becomes very, very natural, at least in my opinion, to use event sourcing. It's really scalable, and the pattern matching is a really key part. It doesn't have to be pattern matching, but it's a very elegant solution to that problem. It's an elegant complement to this architecture. Now, if you look at Elixir, Elixir has pattern matching as well. And Elixir's pattern matching is, unfortunately, it's a shame that it doesn't have types, because that's like the only thing I don't like about Elixir. Everything else is amazing. It is like beyond amazing. It's I wish we all worked in Elixir server side. But the pattern matching in Elixir is even better. Scala doesn't have shit on this. I'm sorry, it doesn't. Where the pattern matching can be declared at the function level. So that means that you can declare a function foo that takes a certain input, and then you can actually put pattern matching clauses, like several functions, or rather several references to the same function, and basically say that if you pass this to the foo function, do this. If you pass that to the foo function, do that. It's very, very powerful. And I'm not trying to try to explain exactly how it works. It's better for you to go and look at how Elixir does the things that it does, and hopefully you'll find the same thing that I do. So if I compare Scala and Elixir, I will, amazingly enough, say that Elixir wins. Even without the static typing, I think Elixir wins in every conceivable way. It's I'm not saying that I don't like Scala. It's not my favorite language, I'll admit. There are things in it that are so horribly bad, and I'm thinking specifically about implicit values. I don't know who thought out implicit values, but that person needs to go back 10, 15 years and remember how horrible everything was when we were doing PHP with global, where everything was global, because implicit values is, no, I don't like it, not at all. But it is Java. If I compare Scala and Java, I'll have to say that I prefer Scala, like if that's the comparison. Now we're comparing it to Elixir, and that's, that's not a fair comparison, because I don't think there's a single language. If you ever see me make a Elixir versus something else video in the future, just skip it if you're not interested in my little rant, because it's always going to land on the Elixir side. Even if it's Node. If it's Node versus Elixir, it's still going to be Elixir. So that's a spoiler for you, because I'm actually planning on making one of those videos. But yeah, I don't really have much to say apart from that if you compare Scala and Elixir, I think Elixir wins almost across the board, apart from two things. Scala has, in my opinion, a better development support, like IDEs and tools around it. And I think that, well, Mix is really nice for Elixir as well, but no, I'm just gonna go out and say it. I actually think that Elixir does it better in every single way. Apart from the static typing, Elixir is better than Scala in every single possible way. I'm gonna stick my neck out and just say it. That's how I feel about it. I might actually spend if I ever get a good opportunity to get into an exciting project using Elixir, I'll have to just jump on that, because I'm starting to fall really deeply in love with that language.